Time of year, a Phoenix mother is doing all she can to bring her daughter and her two grandchildren home. As Kristen Hartman learned, right now the trio's in Panama caught in an adoption struggle. Kristen?
Debbie Evans and her husband Yancey adopted two Panamanian babies. When their military stay there drew to a close a few years later, they tried to leave as a family, only to learn the adoptions were not legal.
So you're going to multiply everything by 3.
Teaching at the church she and her husband run gives Jolene Fetters strength in these very tough times.
We've been praying like Moses, let my people go.
Jolene's daughter, Debbie Evans, and grandkids Gabrielle and Kiersten are her people. They're stuck in Panama, where the children were born. Debbie and her husband Yancey thought they adopted the girls during his military stay there.
But because of unscrupulous lawyers, Panamanian lawyers, the papers never were finalized.
A fact they learned only when they tried to return to America more than a year ago. Jolene says immigration told the Evans to leave the children, who were no longer babies, because the adoption process would take a while. Debbie
Would never consider it, never.
Call it a mother's love. The girls might not have been Debbie's on paper, but they were hers in her heart and mind. So she stayed in Panama, and Yancey came home to finance the paperweight. He found support in the Fetters Family Church.
We feel the pain that they're going through. Because
Martha Underwood and other congregation members have lent thousands of dollars in prayers to the cause.
Well, you pick up the phone and you try to encourage and you pray with your daughter.
Debbie and the girls need encouragement. In May, the military personnel they're staying with are set to pull out of Panama. At this point, Gabrielle's adoption is final, but Kiersten's isn't. What's your wish for your daughter, her husband, and their children?
Oh, that they can all come down the tarmac at Sky Harbor together.
As Mother's Day approaches, this mom only wants to see the daughter she's missed for so long and meet the grandchildren she's only seen in pictures. Jolene tells us Yancey, who's with Debbie right now in Panama, told her they're applying for a special humanitarian parole visa for Kiersten. If they get it, they'd all be able to come home before the child's adoption is final. As for immigration, we put in a call. They said they'd get back with us. As of yet, they have not, Patty.
Let's hope for the best. Let us know. Thanks, Kristen. It's been a long road for the Evans family, one they hope will come to an end with something called humanitarian parole. Kristen Hartman is here to explain. Kristen?
A humanitarian parole would allow 4-year-old Kiersten Evans to enter the U.S. with her sister Gabrielle and her mom Debbie. They've been stuck in Panama, caught up in the red tape of what they call a nightmare adoption process.
I mean, they just walk into a room and it just lights up.
A separation of miles upon miles forces Yancey Evans to be a long-distance dad.
Just waking up every day and knowing your kids aren't there in the house with you, that's probably the toughest part. It's been really lonely. And I can only imagine what it's like for them, too, on the other side.
The other side is Panama, where Yancey and his wife Debbie adopted little girls a few years back during his military stay. When it came time to leave, they learned Gabrielle and Kiersten's paperwork wasn't quite done, and that lawyers there had
strung us along and did very little, if anything, as far as paperwork. And we were left basically high and dry.
Having raised the girls from infancy, they would not, as suggested, leave them behind. So a little more than a year ago, Yancey came home to work to support his family abroad while they waited.
If circumstances were different in Phoenix, I'd probably be the one who took these pictures.
When he can, he goes for happy visits that often have sad goodbyes, like the one described in the email Debbie wrote to a friend. It says, "My little girls are just standing at the window with their arms outstretched, crying for their daddy to come back. I am crying because I can't take this hurt away."
That's the toughest part, is knowing that my kids are going through that.
Yancey hopes to bridge the separation soon. Gabrielle, the product of a private adoption, should finally be free to leave this week. But he says Kiersten's orphan adoption status binds her to different immigration rules and regulations that could keep her there 2 more years. It's one reason the family decided to file for a humanitarian parole.
Sometimes they do grant them for international adoptions to keep families together. That's one of the reasons for humanitarian parole.
who told you that?
We found that out through Senator McCain's office.
which has written letters on the Evans' behalf. If the parole gets the okay, the whole family could be together again in less than a month. In her letter, Debbie asks her friend to please keep my little girls in your prayers. Yancey thanks everyone who has and looks forward to the days he won't have to be a father from so far away.
When you get told on the phone by your child that, I miss you, Daddy. I mean, that's really hard to go through every day. Because I miss, the little moments like where she skins her knee and she wants somebody to hold her. I miss those moments, and that's really tough.
The Evans have received emotional and financial support from the Shepherd's Church where Debbie's dad is pastor. The congregation anxiously awaits a happy family reunion.
Oh, let's hope so soon. Thanks, Kiersten. Adoption and immigration troubles stranded Debbie Evans and her daughters in the country for more than a year. But as Kiersten Hartman learned, they recently got some very good news. Kiersten?
The last time we brought you this story, Debbie and her daughters were waiting on a lot of paperwork. Now there's a light at the end of what's been a very long tunnel.
In the morning, she said, hi.
When Jolene Fetters hears her granddaughter's voices, she smiles. The phone line has been her heart line to the little girls.
Yeah, I've listened to them grow up more than anything.
She hasn't seen them because of a struggle in Panama where they were born. Jolene's daughter Debbie and son-in-law Yancey thought they adopted Gabrielle and Kiersten as newborns during his military stay there. When it came time to leave a few years later, they learned the adoptions were not legal.
It's been hard.
Because they had to correct what they believed lawyers got right the first time around. Yancey returned to the U.S. to provide for the girls and Debbie, who had to wait out the process in Panama.
Your child comes in with a skin knee, you can fix it. You can hold them, you can comfort them, but here's a daughter and grandchildren thousands of miles away, and I can't get to them.
But Debbie's dad, Bob Fetters, a pastor at the Shepherd's Church, could pray for them and help financially.
And we've invested everything we've got. We put everything we have into it, and the church has been right there with us. Just a little church, but they're a family.
A source of support in tough times. Debbie and the girls hit myriad roadblocks in their push to get home.
And the paperwork requirements kept changing. The money requirements kept changing.
In May, hope nearly turned to despair. Debbie found out U.S. rules and regulations might require Gabrielle and Kiersten to wait 2 more years for visas once their adoption's finalized.
The INS director down there and the one in Mexico City told her, you need to put those girls in an orphanage and go back to the United States for 2 years.
For the family, an orphanage was not an option. Pastor Fetters sent that message in a letter to the U.S. Embassy in Panama. He asked for their help in resolving the matter, as did Senator McCain's office. The Department of State looked at options, and shortly thereafter came news.
It's been wonderful because the INS has committed to providing the visas as their adoptions come final.
Gabrielle's is final. The day she received her visa, Debbie wrote this email. She said her 5-year-old told well-wishers, quote, I'm going to get off the plane and meet all my family.
There's a whole new hope. Yeah, like an excitement.
There's anticipation, too. Kiersten's adoption process is complete. Her family hopes she'll have her visa by the end of July.
And then it's getting them to Arizona.
Jolene says she'll hug her grandkids and tell her daughter.
You've done a good job. I'm really proud of her. She's a strong woman.
We have tried to contact the American Embassy in Panama and the INS director there about the Evans case. No one has returned our calls. Debbie's family believes pressure from McCain's office, other senators, and the media forced the agencies to find a way to get the girls home.
Nice story. Thank you, Kiersten.
Today, this is one of those really nice stories that we could probably use just about now. Kiersten?
The airport is home to a lot of happy reunions, but I'm willing to bet not as quite as happy as the one you're about to see. This airport reunion
Hi, baby. You did a good job, sweetheart.
has been many, many months
Missed you so much.
in the making.
I'm in shock. I really am. I'm amazed that we did this, but I'm real happy though.
Debbie Evans' happiness follows a long struggle. It began in Panama, where she and her husband Yancey adopted 2 baby girls they named Gabrielle and Kiersten. Only when Yancey's military tour there ended a few years later did they learn the adoptions were never legalized.
Emotionally, physically, financially, it's been a struggle. Every part of it's been a real struggle.
Because countries separated the family. Debbie stayed in Panama with the girls to wait out the red tape, while Yancey returned to the U.S. to work and finance their stay. Debbie's mom, Jolene Fetters, says a tough situation got tougher last spring when the Evans learned, even after finalized adoptions,
there was no chance of her getting a visa for Kiersten or Gabrielle, that she should leave the girls in an orphanage and come home, because there was at least a 2-year wait.
But according to Jolene, U.S. officials changed their tune after a little intervention.
Channel 3 was involved. People were praying. They were writing letters, even all across the country.
Before long, Gabrielle and Kiersten had their visas, and it was time to plan a happy homecoming.
So we're going to have a party.
Jolene and friends readied the tiny church their family runs for a celebration for the whole congregation.
What time is it supposed to arrive?
Then it was off to the airport.
I'm in a daze right now. I can't even function.
Where an already dramatic story was coming to a very appropriate dramatic end.
Well, they should be on the ground by now, I would think. It's 5:55.
Debbie's dad watched the clock as storms rolled in.
As long as the wind isn't bad, they can come in on instruments.
And Yancey made his occasional flight time check.
It's showing in range for 5:54.
Finally, 40 minutes late, the plane arrived.
Oh, my heart's just going like pity-pat, I guess. Very excited.
So were Debbie and the girls, who ran to their dad and the grandparents they'd never met.
You know, we've been loving you.
Now, it doesn't have to be long-distance love. How's that for pure joy? After their arrival here at the airport, the family went back to the church and had that party with the congregation that helped fund Debbie and the girls' stay in Panama. It's a wonderful story.
I need a Kleenex. I can't go on. All right, Kristen, thanks. Len, did you love it?
I was even mixing up a little.
Telling ya.
As Eminem said, they probably have a pretty good shot at winning the whole damn thing. Hey, let's go over to